The world is a heavy place these days. Fires out west, political unrest, climate change, the interim final rule. Oh, I feel it heavy, all of it in my heart, and I feel disconnected from lots of things. So what I intend to do today is try to reconnect. This is the Lancaster Farming Industrial Hemp Podcast. My name is Eric Herlock, and today we're going on a road trip. First stop is going to be Paradise Hemp Farm down in southern Chester County. Let's go. Good morning, Eric. Thanks for having me down to your farm today. Your first stop on my Hemp Tour 2020.
Thank you for coming. Appreciate it.
Paradise Farms is that the name of the farm?
Paradise Hemp Farm.
Paradise Hemp Farm is my first stop on my hemp road trip. So how's it going here? What are we looking at?
So, well, thanks for coming out. This is one of our fields. This is a field of CBD plants. These rows here, these 8 rows are sour space candy. There's a break, and then there's 8 rows of Suver Haze. These are genetics from Oregon CBD that we chose. We're happy with how they've performed. If you see here, I'm 6 feet tall, and many of these plants are taller than I am. That's also a result of we planted in mid-June, and so we expected that we were going to have larger size plants. Generally everything has performed pretty well. This is a CBD field. Behind you is a field of CBG plants, also Oregon CBD genetics, and we're happy with how those plants have grown as well. If you see here, we have our flowers starting to form. Trichome development, resin glands. If you walk around and you touch enough of them, you'll see. If you walk around and touch enough of them, you'll have sticky hands afterward. Stinky hands afterward.
So what kind of challenges have you had this year?
So first challenge was heavy rainfalls earlier in the summer. Thankfully, those heavy rains were earlier in the summer, but definitely we had one event where we received about 6 inches of rain in 4 hours, and it just washed out a couple of our areas, knocked hundreds of plants over. If you see, we have stakes now. Almost every plant is individually staked up with a bamboo stake, and that's as a result of a lot of plants getting knocked over. And then more recently, and a bigger challenge, is caterpillar damage. Caterpillars and just other bugs crawling over our buds, our colas, and eating them. I just had in my hand and dropped it a moment ago. I mean, it's just a tiny little bug that, if I didn't scoop it out of the plant, would just go ahead and really wreak havoc. And so we're just going through our plants, quality control one by one, cutting out any caterpillar spots, trying to find as many bugs as we can, squish them, remove them. Again, quality control, just going through everything meticulously. And once they are harvested, hopefully within the next few weeks or so, do it all again, meticulously observe and analyze everything before it goes into our drying space. Make sure that we remove any presence of molds, mildews, anything that's going to be problematic in the drying area.
All right, and then so after it's dried, what's the plan for the crop?
So we're going to harvest as much as we can for flour, for smokable flour. We plan to hang dry what's called low and slow, where we're not overheat. We're not going to heat the crop at all. We're not going to do any machine drying. We're going to be ventilating the space as well as possible, dehumidifying the space as well as possible, and drying our crop in a way that's designed to preserve terpenes, preserve flavor, preserve the odor, and the nice experience that you get from smoking or dry vaping the flower.
Okay. So this is your first year growing, right?
Yes.
And you practiced law before that.
Yes.
Any regrets for trading in the lull job for a farmer job?
None at all. No, I wouldn't go back to it. Just being out the 14-acre farm versus an office setting is incomparable. Every profession has challenges, no matter what you do. I have found the challenges of hemp farming and growing to simply be more enjoyable than the challenges of practicing law.
Would you recommend all lawyers give up lawyering and start growing hemp?
No, there are plenty of lawyers that love what they do and should continue to do what they do. And the cannabis world certainly needs lawyers as well. But I certainly don't miss the daily grind of what I was doing before. I don't miss waking up to emails, worrisome, concerning emails that need my immediate response. No, I don't miss that at all.
That was Eric Trachtenberg from Paradise Hemp Farm in West Grove, Pennsylvania. Now we're going to shoot on over to Kennett Square and meet with Cynthia at Hemp Alternative. Hi, Cynthia. Thanks for having me out to the farm today.
Yeah, thanks for coming.
Yeah, this is my second stop on my Hemp Tour 2020. So how are things going here at your hemp operation?
Great. We just started our estate testing and some of our harvesting. So we'll be testing and harvesting every 15 days in a bit of a rotational effort to make sure that we get everything out at the highest quality and quantity, but of course not jeopardize the compliance.
Right. And how many acres are you growing?
So acre-wise, I would go plant-wise, we have about 9,000 CBD plants, and we have about 1,000 CBG. And so we have those across 3 different farms. So it depends on sort of how the farmers space their plants in terms of how many acres we're covering.
Okay. And what sort of challenges have you been facing this year?
Yeah, I think some of the largest challenges are following the new USDA guidelines that Pennsylvania has picked up, and that's just relative to making sure that we're following all the rules and staying compliant, and testing's kind of an expensive thing, so we've got that to deal with too.
So any pest pressure that you've been dealing with?
Of course, we've had plenty of spotted lanternflies. Actually don't think they've been doing any damage, but recently now we have, the caterpillars are showing up, so we're treating for that.
Okay, what are you doing for that?
It's a BT solution that they put on in the evenings.
Right, and then so you mentioned when we were walking around about the testing that it seems sort of like a innovative way to test, where you're having the state test certain plants that are ready, and then they'll come back. Can you explain that a bit?
Actually, the way our plants didn't have as much consistency as we had hoped as they were maturing in the field. So just to mitigate the risk, we've actually developed our own rotational schedule. So we have the state out, they test, we have 15 days to harvest. We go through and harvest those that we believe are the most mature and ready to come out of the field. And then we line up our second round of testing and then go back through and harvest a second round in terms of what we think's ready to mature at that time. And it actually helps because it spreads out our drying and our bagging anyway, and we're making sure we get the most volume and quality out of the plant before we run into a risk of any THC issues. So it's just maybe if you had a more consistent varietal, you wouldn't feel the need to do that, but I just felt more comfortable doing that.
And then you built a dryer. Can you describe that a little bit?
Yeah, so last year we modified a hay dryer to basically dry the buds that were bucked off the plants. And this year we've decided to move that into a mobile unit. So we have a box trailer that's now been built out. Think of it as an air hockey table, basically inside of the box trailer. And so that allows us to not only dry the plants here at our sort of home farm, but we can also take that out to our Amish subcontracted farmer. And then we have a grow in Maryland, about 3,500 plants in Maryland, so we'll take it down there too. So they'll wet bucket in the field, they'll fill up the flat bed, and then we'll turn that on and dry plants that way. About 500 pounds every time it runs.
Okay. And then what's the sort of final plan for the harvest? What are you going to use it for?
Yeah, so typically we would work to pull out the oil and turn that to distillate or isolate and add that to our inventory from last year. But this year we're also looking at perhaps some of our plants that may have some seeds, where we may be doing some experiments with that and kind of looking at what that takes to either press the oil out of the seed or use those seeds for, the marketplace. From a protein perspective.
Have you had any trouble finding a processor?
No, actually, I think I kicked the tires on enough of them last year to know who we want to work with this year. I am going to introduce some new Maryland processors this year because I don't want to bring that crop across the state line. That's a 2014 Farm Bill in Maryland.
Oh, okay.
So we're only looking at Delta 9 from a THC perspective. So I will find some processors in Maryland to handle the Maryland grow.
Okay. What else should I ask you about?
Maybe just the fiber trial.
Oh yeah, you
So-
did do fiber this year.
We
Tell me
did,
about
yeah.
that.
So we did a study with Stroudwater Research Center. It will actually be a 3 to 5 year study, and this was year one. We had grown some fiber last year, so we picked up some experience. But this year we're working with them, just a small 3 acre. We ended up with 3.5 good sized round bales, and they're studying, how that fiber can fit into a rotational crop in farming. What does it do to the soil, and how does it help keep our waters clean? And then we'll take that harvest and work with Jefferson University's Design, Engineering, and Commerce College, and we're looking to develop sustainable products with that harvest. So that's probably a good year-long project.
Right.
And we'll be looking for, some investment behind as we go through the lab at Jefferson and develop alternatives for the marketplace. So the key there will be to find sustainable products that we have an audience of customers who are willing to pay a little more to save the earth, right? So some of the products that you can use herd or bast for, they're not going to compete in the marketplace. And if that audience isn't willing to pay a little more to save the earth, you're never going to even get your pilot off the ground. Where in this case, I think we've targeted some of the work in the horticulture field where people want to save the earth. Mm-hmm. And if they can pay a little more, help us get our products developed, and then eventually with scale, over time, those prices will come down. But I think that's kind of a trick to get going in the market today and build some demand.
Okay. You're also on the steering committee for the state.
Yes.
Can you tell me about the work you're doing there
Absolutely,
and how that's going?
So I'm a co-lead with Josh on the subcommittee that is called Research Opportunities and Needs.
That's Josh Lydecker.
Yes, from Susquehanna Mills. And so our focus there is to really be an advisory group to the state ag department. So we work together with, they have a business development group and a regulation group and a group that is the voice of the farmer. And so together we bring issues to senior management to kind of take a look and see, for instance, the USDA is opening for comments again. So how can we influence through thinking around sort of what it feels like to be in the field and some of the challenges and what will help us grow this business if we can get the regs fine-tuned. So that's what our goal is.
Cool. Well, sounds like you've got a lot on your plate.
Yeah,
so thanks for taking time today to meet me out here at the farm.
Thanks for coming.
So that was Cynthia Patron Hudock at Hemp Alternative in Kennett Square. Now we're going to head west a little bit on out to Lancaster County. We're going to stop at Oakley Farm where Tim and Sarah from King's Agri-Seed are going to show me around their test farm where they're growing many varieties of hemp. Okay, so this is my third stop today on my hemp tour in Lancaster and Chester counties. So could you introduce yourselves?
I am Tim Fritz, the owner of King's Agri-Seeds, and I am an agronomist by training. And this is our second year of research of hemp on this farm.
And I'm Sarah Mitchell. I am the Industrial Hemp Specialist with King's Agri-Seeds.
Okay, well thanks for having me out to your operation here. So tell me a little bit about what's happening here. This is like a test plot, right?
This is a test plot. In this particular spot where we're standing, we are looking at photosensitive varieties. We have potential introductions, about 8 numbered varieties that could be on the market, but probably may not be. There may be 1, possibly 2, that could be introduced in 2021. This one is called Spectrum. This is currently on the market and one of the varieties that we sold for photosensitive for this season.
Okay, and where are you sourcing your seeds from? Or is that you work with Phylos exclusively?
No, we work with Phylos as one of our suppliers, and that's in the auto CBD right now.
Oh, okay.
And we're also working with this variety, Spectrum, is by Atlas? Flora. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Flora.
All right, I know Atlas. Do you work with them too?
We are in discussion.
Right. Okay. Cool. So what sorts of challenges have you had out here this year?
I think we've had typical challenges of most growers. Number one would be how to get the crop seeded or started initially. And number two would be learning to monitor this crop and respond. And probably the biggest problem is weed control.
Yeah. So what have you done for weed control?
Oh, so for autoflower, that's where we have the biggest concern about weed control, because we're trying to do direct seeding in the soil. And you have a plant that's being planted at a relatively low population. It was recommended to us to seed at 10,000 seeds per acre. Corn typically around here is seeded at 30,000. So that's a pretty thin population. That's one. The goal was to get one plant every 18 inches in a 30-inch row. So you're going to have weeds. So that is our biggest challenge. And bottom line, we tried various techniques for controlling weeds. And we do like the idea of planting in a 30-inch row, doing some sort of form of cultivation. In our research plots, that was in the form of a rototiller. And then after about a month, doing a interseeding of different ideas. And I think I'm going to recommend a broad mix that we're developing for this in the future, not just one component, because you never know what the weather's going to be.
So is that like a cover crop? It's not hemp, but it would be in there to suppress the weeds?
It would be an interseeding to help control erosion between the rows when you get heavy storms. The weeds, at that point, the weeds are going to be less of a problem. But up front, I think we need some sort of tillage. We actually tried flaming as well. And we tried a couple organic approved herbicides.
How many different growers have you sold hemp seeds to? Like, how many people are you working with?
We've sold hemp in 5 states.
Oh, okay.
So from small growers to larger growers, from large farms to just greenhouse operations, from people who have just never grown anything before to people who have if there can be a veteran farmer.
Right.
We've sold to some growers who do know what they're up against.
Okay. Can you ballpark like what percentage of your business now is hemp? Is it still relatively small compared to all the other seeds that you sell?
In the King's AgriSeed system,
Yeah.
It's a very low percentage.
Yeah. Okay.
But we did okay considering this year, and we started in the grain hemp world, grain/fiber.
Mm-hmm.
So the CBD is new this year, and last year we had a lot of success because there were not very many people selling at that time. We actually sold the whole way out to California last year.
Okay.
This year it's more regionalized because there's a better distribution network. But even with the grain and fiber, weeds are a major issue. And I've been working on some other projects with that, some concepts. I'm not ready to really discuss them yet because I had some success this last year with those concepts. And this year they were not so good.
Okay.
So we're still learning.
Yeah.
Like everybody else.
Right.
We're still learning.
Okay. How will you do things differently next year?
Well, for starters, we are planning a little better where we're going to plant our crop. So in 2019, Tim did some plantings where he had particular cover crops that overwintered and found weed suppression as well as hemp encouragement based on the different mixtures. So we are already starting there by planting cover crops where we intend to plant hemp for 2021.
Okay.
And I think farmers need to be looking to the future and thinking about where their crop rotations are going to come from. So that's number one. And I think number two, we will just learn from our mistakes. We will definitely be learning from our mistakes and not making some of them.
Okay.
So
between the autoflower and the photosensitive stuff, what's more popular with your customers?
we started out early with the autoflower, I think that there are a lot of advantages to growing autoflower, mainly that you can schedule your labor, schedule your planting, schedule your harvest, kind of ladder the whole season. And here in the East, you can actually take advantage, or I guess avoid some of the risks by planting multiple crops with the weather. So I think that's a powerful advantage. And then of course you can schedule your harvest to come in ahead of the photosensitive crops. So the growers who have harvested, their autoflowers are doing very well in the marketplace right now for smokable flower.
Okay.
So our customers are fairly pleased.
What other sort of insect pressure have you had here? Because I saw a spotted lanternfly land on your shoulder there.
Spotted lanternfly seem to be attracted to just about anything. So it does seem to like this too.
Are they doing any damage?
Not that I can see.
Okay.
Not that I can see.
Some other growers I talked to today had some caterpillar pressure in the buds. Is that happening here too?
Yes.
And what do you do for that?
We don't do anything. We had insect pressure at the beginning with grasshoppers eating the seedlings. That was in July when it got really hot and dry.
Oh yeah.
So even though we had good emergence, we lost plants there. We've had armyworm, considerable amount of armyworm that feeds on the buds. We've had yellow woolly bear caterpillar feeding on the leaves, and we've had some corn earworm, but not very much of that.
Okay.
And the question about what are we doing about it, in reality, this is a research farm. We have so many varieties, experimental varieties on this farm. There's no way we could pull off a commercial sale of this. We'd have to have all the testing done for each variety. So we will not be marketing this product. It will be a terminated project.
That was my next question. What was going to happen to it? But you're just going to compost it, or?
It's going to go back into the land.
Okay. Do you then still have to get it tested?
No, we need to document that we destroy it.
Okay. All right, but you don't need the state to come out and test and
No, but we do have to document that we destroyed
the destruction. Okay. And what is your method of destruction?
Well, our grain and fiber material we simply mowed off.
Okay.
And I believe that's probably what we'll do with this too. It's anything to just kill it, and mowing's the easiest. We have a real nice double reciprocating sickle bar mower that cuts right through this stuff. No problem at all.
Okay. All right. Well, hey, I appreciate your time today. Thanks for having me out. And also thank you for your sponsorship over the past, I guess, a year or so. You guys have been sponsoring our podcast, and I appreciate that.
It's been a pleasure. We like to support anything educational for learning new crops and continuing our education.
I think that's probably one of the key distinctions between King's AgriSeeds and other hemp seed suppliers, is that we are working with farmers who have more on their farm than just hemp.
Yeah.
So working on building up the soil, looking at their crop rotations, also helping to get best cultivation practices, as well as represent really good breeders. That's kind of where we fit, is in a larger spectrum, tying in with our other products and our other business. It's a good business model.
Good.
And I'm just going to add one other thing.
Yeah, sure.
You mentioned testing. We are testing, but we're not testing for sale.
Okay.
We're testing for research.
Sure.
At various time points.
Okay. All right. Well, Tim and Sarah, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Eric.
Thank you.
Our fourth stop today is out to Holtwood, Pennsylvania, southern Lancaster County. We're going to meet up with Steve Groff. You know Steve, he's been on the show before. Hey Steve, how you doing?
We're doing good.
Good. So thanks for having me out to your farm. This is my fourth stop on my hemp road trip 2020.
All right.
So appreciate you bringing me out here. So how's the season going?
We've had a little dry weather there in July, and then it got a little wet, and now it'd be like, please, just nice days through the rest of September for our hemp crop here, because We don't like the foggy days like we had the last couple days. So far, I think we've had a decent year.
Good. So what's your plan for harvest? When's this stuff coming down?
Well, it looks like in 10 days or 2 weeks. So I have a bunch of varieties here I'm testing. So there's a little bit of overlap, and also they're spaced apart a little bit. So
Right.
more or less over the next, in about 2 weeks, over the next several weeks, then we'll be working on harvesting this.
Okay. And how's it going with like the state testing? Any issues there?
Well, I guess you could say we've had a few issues. The testing is certainly not consistent from test to test. And, with that being said, I think there's still a work in progress of nailing this down. Of course, I'm a proponent of let's just make it 1% and let's just make this just easier for everybody. And it accomplishes the same purpose.
Yeah, take the burden off the farmer.
Yeah, so that's frustrating, and I would say that I was very happy to hear the USDA has opened up the comment period. Nothing else, I see that as a positive sign, meaning they're willing at least to hear and listen. And I think farmers are frustrated enough now with the testing aspect, with the harvest window they're giving us. It really does not work in real world. Just for instance, the last 3 days here, I couldn't harvest if I had to because it's been wet. You can't harvest wet hemp. And from the time they test till you get your test back, and then until you get your clearance letter, sometimes it's weeks.
Yeah.
So that's been a problem. I think it's being addressed, but we'll hope for the best.
See, right. Have you heard of any farmers having to destroy crops because they're hot?
I have heard of some, and I know that's kind of being a little bit of a work in progress there. And that's one of the contentions too, because in the context of everything here, we know that we can take the THC out of processing. So I know that's one of the things that they want to get involved with, is trying to have other options to instead of destroying it, to actually use it. And then I understand there's going to have to be some follow through with that. But, and here I am, I'm testing new varieties. There's not many people out there doing that. And what if I get a variety that in all good conscience, it tends to be hot? Am I going to be penalized for that? And that's just some of the questions I'm asking in the context of all this.
Yeah. Apart from some of the weather issues, how about like weed pressure or insect pressure?
So I haven't seen much problems with insect pressure. And as far as weed pressure, you always have weeds no matter how you grow. And so it takes some time and effort, money, expense, whatever, to control the weeds. And now with plenty of moisture, the weeds grow too. And so we just had to try to keep up with that. I've gotten a little behind in some acres, but as you can see right here, this stuff's pretty good. So yeah, we're on top of it,
Okay.
but I don't think I'm ahead of it.
Yeah. Last time we talked, you had mentioned your own sort of vertical integration and your own brand. How's that going?
Yeah, so I am coming out with my own brand. cedarmeadow.farm is the brand, and we're actually using our dog here as a mascot, our dog Grizzly. He's not going to pose for you now, but so anyway, it's coming together. But I know why a lot of people don't do this, because it's hard. It really is, to get everything lined up from extraction to bottling and everything is tough. And I fully understand that it's a crowded market out there, but I really wanted to take things kind of under my own, to determine my own future,
Sure.
rather than just sit on biomass for a year. Don't want to do that again.
Do you still have some from last year?
We're still going through some of last year's stuff, and we're just about ready to harvest this. So, yeah, that didn't work out like we thought last year, but we'll see how this brand works, and we're looking forward to it. But
What kind of products are you making?
So we're going to initially start focusing on the pet market for pet CBD, and working with various aspects in that whole realm. We're also going to have for people as well, of course, and then we're going to get into the salves and creams for people, and some of the different. And as we grow and as we get established, it's life would be easy if we had all the money in the world. I know that's not the answer to anything, but we're going to bootstrap this pretty much.
Yeah.
And as hopefully as things proceed, we'll be able to expand. And we're definitely not rushing to the market on this. This is something that's been about 9 months now in process, and we're still a month away from actually selling the product.
Okay. I will offer my dog Willie as a test.
There we go.
Test case if you need another.
We will take you up
dog.
on that, Eric.
All right.
Yeah.
Because he could use some CBD.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah. Cool. So what other concerns do you have?
Well, it's, the concerns I have right now is the things that, aside from the normal farmer concerns, the weather, we understand that. We're farmers, we deal with it. I've been a lifelong farmer, 3rd generation here in this farm, and I've never experienced some of the stuff, the regulatory things that frankly just seem, I'll say, unfair, or they just don't make any sense. And so, that's a big kind of a question mark out there in the future, and to try to see and understand where this industry is going. Does USDA want this to be a legitimate crop for farmers to grow? Is the pharmaceutical industry trying to temper it? I don't know. You would think they might be, because it threatens them. And I understand that, but if the USDA is really at our back, they need to step in our shoes. They need to have people at the table making these rules that are farmers. And the way these rules have come out now, it's pretty obviously, it doesn't seem like there were farmers there at the table. So I'm just saying we need to have input into this. I'm available to do that. There are plenty of good people out there to be able to get some reasonable, common sense rules for this plant. I mean, this plant can do so much for our human health, and we'll say animal health too,
And environmental health.
and environmental. There's just so many good things about this plant, and it just seems like we're getting our hands slapped. Okay, grow it, but bam, or they're putting us in a box. So there's forces at work out there. I don't even know who they all are, but there is. And, I want to do my part as a farmer to grow a good crop, to help others to do it. I mean, I'm just learning too. This is my 2nd year, and I'm learning a lot, continue to, and working with others. That's my passion, to be an educator. Not that I know it all, but I want to bring people together so we can learn together.
Right.
And it is frustrating. It feels like the government decision makers give you lip service, but very, very rarely does it seem like they really follow up and make change. So that's my most frustrating rant on this topic.
All right. Well, I appreciate you having me out here. It's great to be.
It's always good, Eric. And again, we as farmers, we appreciate what you're doing for this industry.
Well, thanks.
You're welcome.
So that was a pretty good tour. Thanks to Eric Trachtenberg, Cynthia Patron-Hudak, and Tim Fritz and Sarah, and to Steve Groff. Appreciate your time today, helping me get reconnected to the hemp space. So, all right, so that did it. We did the hemp tour. I'm feeling better. I feel more connected now to the hemp space. So thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. If you are listening, you should check out YouTube because there's a video of this. So, all right, my name is Eric Herlock. I'm the digital editor at Lancaster Farming Newspaper. And until next time, I'll see you in the newspaper.
Industrial hemp.
Today's show was episode 101 is copyright 2020 by Lancaster Farming Newspaper, part of the Steinman Communications family. Today's show was written and recorded, edited and produced, and filmed by me, Eric Herlock, and any music you hear throughout the show is courtesy of Tin Bird Shadow. We'll be back in a few weeks with more interviews, more nuggets of hemp news, and all that stuff.